Welcome to Say Yes Outdoors Off-Road. This week we'll be installing new fenders and inner fenders on our 2015 Jeep Wrangler JK. The brands we selected for this installation are Aries and Poison Spyder. We chose these brands based on their reputation and online reviews. We love many of the unique features of Poison Spyder inner fenders. They are aluminum, so they are lightweight and less likely to rust. The well thought out one-piece front design gives the engine ventilation as well, and our family also loved the Poison Spyder logo. Our kids can't help but point out the logo when they see one in the wild. Our 7-year-old son James did a great job as our videographer for this portion of our project. Thank you, James. To start the installation, I did some inner fender prep work. I found that some tools we already had in the garage greatly simplified our prep. Perhaps the most helpful tool for this step were clamps. We were able to use them to hold the screens in place while I tightened them to the inner fender. I followed the provided instruction for tool sizes like drill bits and hex tools. The drill hex bit worked, but if not careful, you could easily strip out the bolts. Our next step was to install Aries fenders. We chose this brand over Poison Spyder because they, too, offer aluminum, but most importantly because of minimal drilling. We like that the black powder coat finish matches the rest of our Jeep accessories, and they are approximately $500 less than the Poison Spyder steel black fenders. The rear fender removal is easy compared to the front. There are no bolts to remove. A smooth, steady pull is all we needed to make both fender and inner fender pop right off. I finished cleaning up the area by removing the remaining plastic clamps. The Aries front and back fenders arrived in 2 separate boxes, but they were extremely well packaged and there was no damage or scratches. They are very lightweight. I could actually hold them with one hand while I pre-marked the rivet nut holes. I'm extremely happy with these fenders. The one item I will definitely be adding to my toolbox is a step drill bit. This would have been very useful. I was nervous while I bored out the hole. There's always the risk you might make the hole too large. The rear fenders on the Jeep were the only place we had to drill a hole for fender installation. With the absence of a step drill bit, I had to use several smaller bits to avoid splintering the metal body. I did decide to buy a rivet nut tool. This particular one from Amazon had all the sizes and extra rivet nuts I needed. It was a lifesaver. The tool that comes with both the fenders and the inner fenders is very cumbersome and would have added significantly to the installation time. Once you have the rivet nuts in place, you can just bolt on the rear fenders. With this combination, it doesn't matter if you install the fenders or liners first. There are 2 existing holes in the rear wheel wells that need to be drilled to a larger size to accommodate the rivet nuts. When drilling the rear driver's side, be very careful as the gas fill line is close by. The rear fender liners were the hardest of all pieces we installed, but it was still fairly easy and straightforward. This part of the installation has the most drilling, 6 holes on each side. Once you have the 2 bottom holes drilled out, install the rivet nuts and mount the rear fender liner. Bolt in as if you are securing it for the final installation, and then mark the next drill holes. When drilling the top 2 holes of the wheel well, you will be drilling into the inside of the Jeep. Be careful not to drill through the carpet. The front of the rear wheel liner has a small bracket that must be installed. One of the holes is already on the Jeep, but it must be made larger. I recommend only putting in one rivet nut in the small bracket so you have the clearance to mark the second hole. Once you have marked and drilled the second hole, add the second rivet nut to the bracket and install. Once everything is drilled and rivet nutted, it should look like this. One additional note, I would make sure you use the inner fender liner with the curve so it fits around the gas line. Now it's time to install the rest of the inner fender together. I will admit this part was tricky. I don't recommend using a drill here as it could easily strip out the bolts. I also found starting on the outside and moving inward was the easiest option. Leave all the bolts loose so you can make adjustments along the way. Finally, make sure to insert the liner so the top of the liner is inside the wheel well body. Once you have done that, push up the back wall and start inserting bolts. This will greatly simplify the installation. The front installation is the easiest. The one tricky part was the hidden bolt that I was not aware of. Once you remove all the bolts, the fenders are easy to remove. Because I purchased the Aries side marker light, I just snipped the factory side marker light wire as close to the fender as possible so I can remove the connection and use it for the installation of the new marker light. Since I was intermingling brands, I had to customize installation a bit. First, I recommend removing the small metal clamp that comes on the Jeep and insert a rivet nut instead to add strength. Another useful tip, drill a custom hole towards the back of the front inner fender. This will help secure the back of the liner to the body of the Jeep. You can use the open hole from the factory fender mount to drill this. Lastly, I actually used the rivet nut tool that came with the fender since the larger tool I bought cannot reach. Installation of the side marker light is best done once the liner is temporarily installed. You can use the light's rubber mount to mark and drill the necessary holes. Once that is completed, you can install the light using the supplied screws. Aries recommends mounting these lights on the side of the fenders, but since I have the Poison Spyder inner liners, I decided to install them inside the fender to protect them from being hit on the trail. Once you've removed and connected the factory wiring to the marker light and reinstalled it, I recommend being very strategic with both the Aries fender bolts and the factory liner bolts. We were able to make satisfying cosmetic adjustments by placing the factory bolts so the black painted bolts were showing. You'll see the finished product under the yellow circles I added throughout the rest of the video. As you can see here, the factory bolts are not very visible. This bolt is one I had to supply as this is a custom hole. I used a standard black bolt. To bolt the fender to the factory fender bracket, simply use a factory bolt since it is not visible. Use the black painted bolts Aries supplied elsewhere. I couldn't be happier with the additional clearance and enhanced looks this combination of brands did for our Jeep. noticed, I repurposed the Aries painted bolt here since this is a highly visible spot. Also, you can see where all of the factory bolts were used. Thank you for watching Say Yes Outdoors.